Hey, I'm here with Nick Cruse, citizen journalist. I know you're from X. You're considered like far left, but I don't necessarily fall into the left right paradigm. But I think we have some things we strongly agree on. So I'm sure I don't know all your opinions. I'm sure there's things we'll strongly disagree on. But I think it should be a fun conversation. I like
Yeah,
breaking out the echo chamber. You said I'm one of the only right guys to invite you on, or considered right.
yeah, that's why I'm glad you invited me on because you're like the only, not me, not the right wingers want to invite me on. So I'm glad you did. I want to break the echo chamber. I'm always done talking anyway. I live in Missouri. I mean, I
Right.
think according to like American point of view, I'm guess I'm far left. I think I'm pretty much middle of the road when it comes to the like global majority, like outside the imperialist groupthink, right? But in America, I am pretty far left. But I live in Missouri. I've been around conservative people all the time, so
Yeah,
I
so you
never
have no
been
problem.
about being in your own little lanes politically. I like talking to people who disagree with me.
Yeah, see, I grew up, I lived most of my life in San Francisco, New York, so I'm the same. So I was like, oh, he's some far right, crazy, racist, bigot. And like most of my friends aren't white. I grew up in these areas. I mean, maybe I can say things on Twitter a little, because Twitter's not made for the most nuanced discussion. But
Yeah,
that's actually, let's go to Twitter real quick. Last week you hit a tweet. What was it when Israel was getting bombed by Iran? It was like what was it, the superhero smiling? It had almost like a million likes. What does that tell you if your country's getting bombed and a million fucking people like a tweet laughing at you?
yeah. Um, they did it to themselves. Like I'm unapologetically cheering whenever I see Tehran get bombed because they are terrorists and they are responsible for all the aggression and we've seen in the Middle East. And they started a conflict with Iran. I'm not a pacifist. Like I believe in fighting against evil in this world. So when I see Israel get what they deserve, I'm more than happy by that. And you can see by the global reaction. But a lot of people in the West, they're shocked because the global majority, they always been a bit against Israel. The United States, they late. They're just now catching up to the fact. That's why it's great to see this shit that people are having this great awakening in the United States. I've been covering the Israel-Palestine issue for years, ever since I started 5 years ago. People will accuse me of trying to cancel people because they were getting the Israel-Palestine issue right. I'll grill these politicians. I'll grill Ro Khan. I'll grill Marianne Williamson over this issue. It was always something I view as a giant problem, this Zionist occupation and corruption of our country.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think it's a huge problem. And I've known a little bit about it for like 6, 7 years, but I didn't start. It was after October 7th. I really just said, you know what? I got to speak up for what's right. I knew my audience didn't like it. I lost, a lot of
Yeah,
followers that day, but I had to speak what's true. So to me, I don't like if I believe something strong, I'm gonna go against my audience. Sometimes I won't like the smallest things. It's not worth tweeting about, pissing my audience off. But if I believe strong about something, I'm going to lose a lot of followers. And I knew Israel was not the good guys. It's like I wasn't
yeah,
like celebrating October 7th, but I understood what happened. And the same thing when Iran started bombing them. I never want to see kids get killed, but man, these are some evil fuckers. So I couldn't help feeling joy. Maybe I shouldn't feel that way, but a lot of us felt that way. The fact that, that tweet you saying got like a million fucking likes almost shows you it was the mainstream conscious. These fuckers had it coming. They've literally been massacring children for, well, 2 years, but like long, long before that. We've been watching it live. And I think I saw somewhere I was watching, you mentioned you've seen these Telegram channels that they have, these really Telegram channels. They go on there laughing at kids. I seen one, some girl's arms blow off. And like, oh, she can't, she can't hug her terrorist dad now. It's like thousands of likes. You're just like, man, this is a sick society.
yeah. I'm glad that many people like you are having an awakening, especially as someone who covered this issue for years. I was not surprised at October 7th at all. Like you had Israel engaging in mass raids of mosques, shooting and executing children. I covered extensively the murder of Shireen Abdul Akleh, a prominent Palestinian journalist who had a helmet on, had a press vest on, and she was shot in the head by the IDF. And I witnessed the Biden administration cover up Israel murdering journalists, and I noticed from day one that both parties were beholden to Israel and willing to carry out their crimes, which is why I'm shocked that more Americans aren't upset that these people have been advocating for a crackdown on our free speech, corrupting our society with APAC, for example. You will hear these like Zionists, the Laura Loomer people, they will say, "Why are you guys so obsessed with the Jews? Like, why are you so like?" You guys are corrupting our society. You guys are advocating for a crackdown on our freedom of speech. I think there's haven't been enough emphasis and focus considering how much they poisoned our society with their nonsense.
Exactly. I'm obsessed with the fucking Jews. because they're controlling my country and they're using my money to do a fucking genocide on, children. So yeah, I'm fucking obsessed with them. They're trying to get me banned with the ADL. They probably go after you too. They try to get me banned. They got me, surprisingly, we're not banned because there's such a pushback of the whole conscious. Like, we've done a lot to change the conscious. Towards the left, it was already kind of pro-Palestine, but the right wasn't. And I think you can really see the right's like split in half now, which it's, a lot of them are still pro-Israel, but the fact that it's split, is a good sign. And if Trump would turn on him, that would really, because he has his cult following, like, I think I'm not sure that opinion on him. I'm mixed on Trump. Some things I like about him, some things I don't, but his following is a fucking cult. I mean, whatever he says, they copy. Like the following the other day, I saw you making fun of it on Twitter too. He goes and starts a war with Iran, bombs them, and then he goes and does a ceasefire and acts like he did some fucking big peace deal. It's like, bitch, you're the one that just started this war. Now you're like, and all the guys are like, oh, look at this amazing move by Trump. It's like, this dumbass started the war. How can you act like he's the hero that stopped it?
Yeah, I always found the MAGA movement to be extremely ridiculous. For one, like he was a Democrat for a very long time. He was beloved by the establishment. He was friends with the Clintons.
Mm-hmm.
Trump was a Fox News watching boomer who started out in politics spreading birther conspiracies about Barack Obama. There wasn't a populist bone in his body. And that's why when people are surprised that the Mark Levins have more sway among Donald Trump, that's surprising. He always been in line with the establishment. If anything, he ran for president because he wanted to be beloved by the establishment. He was embarrassed by Barack Obama making fun of him at that press dinner. He decided he wanted to be acknowledged and loved by the ruling class. But he will never break from Israel. Like, he literally married his daughter off to Zionists. Like, Ivanka Trump married to Jared Kushner. That should have been the number one sign that he would never cross Israel, because I studied like the history of the CIA, the history of how the deep state really works. And one of the most crucial things that you can do to show how loyal you are to the establishment is to give your blood to them. So CIA officers talk about this all the time. Now, CIA officers will marry other CIA officers. They will have family with people in the military industrial complex. You will marry a police sergeant. So if you become blood and willing to have kids with the establishment, have blood ties with them, that's the number one sign you give to show that you will be loyal. Why do you guys think Kamala Harris married Doug Emhoff, her AIPAC Zionist handler? That's how it works. You marry into the deep state. And that's what Trump done. He married his daughter off, getting his only daughter away to a Zionist. Like, and I don't know how anyone could have been tricked by him seeing that and many other relations that he had.
No, I think you really nailed it with that. And I could be wrong about this, but I think Biden, didn't his son marry a Jew too? I could be wrong on that one, but that does seem like a call.
It was surprising.
You nailed it with Militarization.
There's vodka friends, like, people wasn't making.
No, exactly. It's all bullshit. That's why, I mean, I didn't vote this last election. Did you vote this last election?
I'm a supporter of third parties. I supported Joe Stein.
Okay, yeah. No, that's probably what I would have voted for out of the three. I just couldn't, I really don't like Kamala Harris. And like you said, her husband, he's obviously not going to turn on Israel. I just can't really vote in anyone that's super pro-Israel at this point. I think we almost have to unite the left and the right, to go whoever's the anti-Zionist candidate. Like, we can deal with other issues later. I think we have to unite ourselves with this issue, get rid of them first. Then we can start, battling all this other dumb shit. That's kind of my opinion.
I love that you said that, because this is what I've been asking for forever. Like, the serious anti-imperialist Marxists. I know you got named. Oh, he said that term. We've been advocating for a coalition of working class populist people to go against the establishment. Unfortunately, there's been a problem where the right have been distracted by culture war issues. And I tell my audience, I tell people all the time, the culture war issues are used by the ruling class to trick workers and otherwise disenfranchised people into supporting people who don't care about them. So why was people tricked by Donald Trump in the first place? Because they became super invested about the trans issue, for example. The reason why a lot of people vote for Democrats, because they love the LGBTQ community and they see Republicans as being people who want to take their rights away. So the culture war has always been that distraction. So when I see you and when I see some people on the right that actually float the idea of having an anti-Zionist coalition, that's a great sign, because that's what people on the left. Well, I want to say, let me be careful. Serious, serious principled. The people I would consider myself comrades and allyship with, they want us to be fighting over ridiculous nonsense issues, because I don't think like any of these cultural war issues are really reconcilable.
Jake Shields built his name in the cage. Now he's taking the fight to the narrative. The Fight Back podcast doesn't hold back. No filters, no corporate strings. If you're tired of the same recycled lies, support real independence. Visit fightbackpodcast.com. Pick up something from the shop, because truth needs muscle. You're part of the resistance.
Methylene blue has been used for over 100 years for medical purposes and recently surged back into popularity. It has been shown to help repair brain tissue and improve memory, cognitive function, energy, and mood. Research suggests that methylene blue could have neuroprotective effects, possibly aiding in conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and depression. Go to MerakiMedicinal.com and use the promo code FIGHTBACK for a discount.
What happens? We have millions of people live in one country. We got to put that to the side, and we got to see what do what's best for everyday working class people and liberate ourselves from these bloodthirsty Zionist psychopaths, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I think that needs to be our priority right now, and then we could, fight over the other dumb shit later. And a lot of times you realize on the financial shit, sometimes you're not as far off as you think. You think it's like, I'm sure you want a little more government control than I do, but you look at the shit, and I don't think, full-on capitalism has been the best either. You look at shit like the bank bailouts, and what was that, 2007 or 8, completely just fucked us of like, they say like hundreds of billions, but I think it actually, if you actually track what it really was like trillions of dollars to take out of our market to give, because these bankers, they're so big, when they fail, they get bailed out. But if we go and, get some loans and fail our business, we don't get bailed out. So how the fuck is that free capitalism?
Yeah, not really. That's a great way to put it. That's the reason why I advocate for Marxism and I advocate for communism, because I think the heart of corruption comes whenever you have a rogue capitalist class that is more powerful than the government. Now, hear me out on this. Why was people rightfully distrustful of the COVID vaccines? Why was people, and I think they had a
because it was
good
for profit. Yeah, I was distrustful of it. These guys, they rammed it through in a fucking year, and then where I live, they're trying to make it mandatory. It's like, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, exactly. So the problem is everyone know that Bill Gates was advocating for vaccines because he was making money for it. That all these people, they don't care about the public interest. They don't care about all the massive amount of vaccine injuries. They were telling people to vaccine their kids because they want to make money. And that's what happened when you have a rogue capitalist class that is more powerful than the collective. You don't know if the government is making decisions based on what's best for the populace or whether they're making it for profit. And that's one of the core tenets of corruption.
I agree with that point. The only problem is I feel like what happens is a lot of these communist governments is then you get the government becomes corrupt. So it's like maybe human nature, the people at top take shit. So it's like,
yeah,
if you could get it to like work, it sounds good. But in reality, a lot of times people with fucking run shit become greedy fucks and do the same thing. And I think you could get it to like work right, then we could solve it. But these motherfuckers need to be held accountable. They're doing this shit. Like you said, you're not a pacifist. It's almost like these guys need to be, all but puts on YouTube. They need to be taken out.
Yeah. Yeah,
they say things like that.
I think the most important thing is having the support of the people and following the will of the people. I think all governments make mistakes, but when you look at a lot of these revolutionary leaders, they're supported by the people. They're supported and united on the goal of fighting against imperialism, especially like when you look at Nicolas Maduro, for example. Like the Venezuelan people rallied behind him because he knows that his country is ravaged by sanctions. You had the United States government that trying to take him out. He's trying to do his best to protect for his people. The same with North Korea. When you look at the Kim family, they liberated their people from the scourge of Western imperialism. You have the scourges in the West who murdered 2 million Koreans. They murdered 2 million Koreans because they chose a different ideology than them. So when you have the Kim people fighting for their people and their liberation, because that's what a very strong part of communism is fighting for your own sovereignty, fighting for your own liberation. And when you have that, and you had a government providing housing for people, healthcare for people, and following the mandate of the people, that's a good template to have. Every government system can be betrayed, though, and we got to be vigilant. Because you do bring up a good point. Every system can't be betrayed. I'm not saying that any of these systems are utopian.
There is no perfect system.
We got to
trying to find the solution.
We got to consistently work, but with the capitalist class, there's no democracy. It's complete anarchy. There's when you look at Congress, for example, only 13% of the American people support Congress. There's nothing that the American people can do will actually change politics Compared to the Chinese government that has 68% GDP owned by state-run government, and they actually have affordable housing, healthcare. They are largely supported by their people. So I think that the very important line to follow is, where do you got the mandate for your people? Are you implementing policies for your people? Or are you having a capitalist dictatorship? Right? Are you putting policies that people don't support? That's what the American government has done. Implement policies that people don't go for. We have endless war, trillions of dollars being sent overseas. Why? Because they're trying to make the military-industrial complex money. Meanwhile, when you look at the Chinese government, what did they do instead? They invested trillions of dollars into the people, because it's a governing principle that we put the working class above all else, the liberation of the working class above all else. I understand why you're concerned. A lot of people may be scared of it, but it's a guiding principle that take advantage of the good part of human greed. Because what ordinary working class people, all they want is to take care of their living conditions, having healthcare, having housing, having high standard of living among the working class. So if you have a dictatorship of the proletariat and you get the proletariat what they want, that is how you best stem corruption. But if you had the dictatorship of the capitalist class where they would weaponize the police state, like you see all the time in the United States, like you see all the time in Europe, you don't have any true democracy. If that makes sense.
No, I mean, like I said, I'm definitely not for full communism, but I do think there's parts of it where you have excellent points. Like,
Yeah, that's fair.
one you mentioned is the healthcare, bro. Like, you can go, I see people doing GoFundMe's for their kids' cancer. It's like, we're like the richest country in the world. We're paying for war in Israel, and people are doing GoFundMe for their kids' cancer. That pisses me off. I mean, no one should have to fucking do that to, like, we don't have free healthcare here, but Israel does. It's like, give me a fucking break. That's one. We just overpay these fucking drug companies. Like, that's something where clearly greed has just gotten out of control. They could reel that back in. So there's definitely aspect, which, I mean, that's why good to have these conversations, because you could see.
Yeah, I think that's fair too. And something I tell people, because I live in Missouri. Once again, I talk to a lot of conservatives. I'm actually very conservative minded in a lot of ways. I believe that we should have a strong family. It's something that I believe that the black community fucked up with by embracing neoliberalism, this ridiculous grind culture that was implanted by the CIA. We have people abandoning their family. I think we need and this is what Marxism provides, is a most pro-family economic model. Under the system of capitalism, which we have here, where workers are exploited for profit, capitalists forced capitalists to have two breadwinners instead of one. For a very long time, families were able to get by with one breadwinner. Capitalists took that away by stealing your labor value. So what do we advocate for? I advocate, and you see this in China, you've seen this in the Soviet Union. We advocate for paid maternity leave. We advocate for a true working class where you can have one breadwinner instead of having your labor stolen from you. Like, what's more pro-family than not bankrupting a mother when she's giving birth? Like, mothers will go. So I'm glad that you can agree with me. I don't even think that's even left or right. Like, the idea that we will bankrupt someone for simply having a child, why would anyone think that's okay, right?
And then the mother having to go right back to work, and then, like, who raises the kids? You know, that they get raised in freaking daycares and schools, and
Yeah.
these people get no time to, like, talk to their kids to imprint their brains, so they're getting raised by the government. It's like you have to have time to talk. And I'm glad you mentioned real quick the black thing too, because I wasn't sure if we agree on that. Well, both black and white families, you know, black people, we don't have big family, and white people don't have the big family connections either. There's more fathers in home, but there's, like, not the big family connection. People don't have the culture they used to. And there's huge depression, huge suicide, drug addiction with white people. And black people, like you said, the CIA and the Mossad and shit, you know, came in to black hip hop culture, made it cool to, like, you know, brag about doing drugs and killing each other. And they, you know, that a bunch of things killed the family unit. And it's like, I'm glad you can, I was curious some of your racial issues. We might disagree on some of them, but that is a massive one.
Yeah. And I really believe that neoliberalism set back the black community for so much. Like, the embrace of capitalism, neoliberalism, bling bling, hustle culture. This was instilled by the CIA.
Yeah, go and buy diamonds when you make a little money. It's just so retarded.
Yeah, like, are you familiar with the Black Panthers? Like,
Yeah.
Black people purposely have been shifted away from our revolutionary spirit, from our sense of community. Now, to be clear, I believe, and I've seen it more anecdotally, I'll assume, I think our generation, the new generation of black men, because we are scarred by the lack of parenthood that our last generation have, I've seen a lot more cohesive black unit families, but it mostly has to do with economics and people being harmed with economics. But with Black Panther, before like black people were brainwashed by neoliberalism and capitalism, they had breakfast programs. They had community programs. So what happens when you have breakfast programs, community programs? You teaching people music. You go having sport community programs. You build a cohesive community where there's less likely to be violence. What happened under this capitalist system? They built a highway through all the black communities. Look it up. They did that to divide the black community, built highways, separated people so they can sell cars, got rid of walkable cities. People feel more isolated than ever. You implement poverty. You have the CI who put implement crack and drugs in community. Of course, you will see a spike in violence. And I think not only that we have personal responsibility, what we need to change this, it's also a very carefully planned out model by the ruling class to destabilize the black community, to end any sort of rainbow coalition by destabilizing the black community, convincing poor white people that we're your enemy somehow. Oh, even though that don't even make sense, considering that the ruling class left your poor ass white in the first place. So if they're able to accomplish that, they lead with the riches. And I think they have been very successful at that, to be honest. That's why you still see a lot of racial tension instead of class.
I think it's more of a class thing. Like I grew up kind of a poor white area. So for me to like, oh, white privilege, for me, it's hard to relate because I grew up in the trailer areas, but I can understand why other people look at it. So it's like, it's one of these tricky issues. And it seems, I think part of the problem is, it's a long solution. Like you said, it's community. You have to rebuild community. That takes, 20, 30 years. So people don't want to look down. They want to blame each other. They want to yell racist. And the other side wants to, so they get each other yelling at each other instead of sitting back trying to be like, how can we actually put money and stuff into the community? Which actually, the best program I did, I did a few charities I worked with. Most of them seem like bullshit, but I had one friend who was doing a charity where we were going in and working out with inner city kids, mostly black, not all black, but mostly. I did that for like 6 months and I would work out with kids jiu-jitsu. And that was like, felt so positive. And we'd bring in the cops sometimes to play with these kids. And it's like, you could feel them, we did lots of programs like this, bringing the cops around them. I remember one black guy said to me like, oh, I've never been comfortable around talking to a white guy before. And I really was like, wow, that's like, I didn't even think about it. He'd never been really around like white people in like a friendly like manner. It was always like the police against him. And that never crossed my mind. Like, wow, this is like, he wasn't comfortable being around white people in the beginning, until after hanging out with me and teaching him for a little bit. Like, wow, that's like, we need shit like
that. That's why it's very important for us to have the conversation and break down the walls. Like, there's going to be a lot of people on the left just upset that I even put on your show. Once again, I live in Missouri, and there's all this like I see a lot of like fake racial tension online, but I see my white neighbors and my brothers and sisters. We have great friendly conversations. There's it's very important for the ruling class to emphasize these divides and make sure we don't have these conversations and talk to each other. Because more than anything, when you look at black radicals, we want for poor white people the same way we want for ourselves. Like going back to the Black Panthers, you got Fred Hampton, and I organized it with his son next week in Chicago. We're having a great mutual aid event. But he went to poor white people and he said, we have the same enemy, sir. Like, and whenever I see, and this is my opinion, like whenever I see poor white people like voting Republican and engaging in the battle of the race war, it shocks me because like the ruling class, they stole trillions from Africa, South America, the amount of exploitation they engaged in, but they left you poor. Like what?
Damn, I fucked up. I think that's part of the divide too, because everyone starts being like, oh, you own slaves, this to us. And if like you're the poor white, you're like, well, I didn't get any of that privilege. So you can see they wanted to see each other's throats. And if you're a black person, you got nothing either. You're like, these fuckers took me over here, took me on boats. I was in slavery for hundreds of years. That's why we're there. And the white people are like, oh, we don't have anything from it. So both sides were at each other's throats instead of trying to realize we're being intentionally divided against each other by the ruling class.
Yeah. And when you study history, the history of like Europe, for example, the history of war, of these lords sending poor white people out to die for war. And that what shaped my politics. I grew up during that Iraq war. I seen the ruling class completely destabilize the Middle East, send off young kids to die. And that what formed a lot of my politics through studying history and seeing the same pattern of the ruling class using poor white bodies to fight the war. They would send poor white people out to die.
Lots of black too, but just poor people.
Yeah, black too, absolutely. But I'll make a great.
And the rich people are the ones wanting these wars fought.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm saying if Donald Trump won this war with Iran, he should send his son Barron Trump. That's like I
Barron,
think
yeah.
they all should be forced to draft that they advocating for war. It's the that's like the my guiding factor. Like witnessing the Iraq War, especially being against Zionism, let's form an anti-war movement, let end the military industrial complex, and then come together and challenge the people that are stealing our wealth and destroying the quality of life of American cities. Because I know there's gonna be all this conversation about what systems work and what don't, but you have the United States, which is the richest empire in modern human history, that have cities that look like dumps. Like these are things that we should be united on. Unless I understand a lot of people like, look at these blue cities they're discussing. I'm like, well, the rest states are horrible too. We should all be uniting to
Like, it's both, you're right. It's both sides are fucked and they want to see their throat. And yeah, the Iraq War, I was super against that too. And then it was interesting to watch. It looked like Trump was in charge of regime change again. And the people didn't seem like they're having it. So that's a good sign. I mean, I don't think it's over. I think it'll be back at it. But it seemed like the people really pushed back against him, including a lot of his base. You know, as soon as he went and did what he did, they're like, oh, it was awesome. Good job. He stopped World War III, you know. But like, I think a lot of it, maybe he saw the reaction online and was like, oh shit, this is not popular.
Yeah, Trump is he realized he was checkmated by Iran. He got checkmated by Iran in such a devastating fashion because he allowed Israel to drag him into this conflict. Knowing Iran knew that Israel couldn't defend against Iran bombing forever, but Israel had a stated intention, and Donald Trump supported, of getting rid of Iran's nuclear facilities. But I explained that we have no detailed information exactly where this at, and we don't even know if Donald Trump and the United States bombs can even infiltrate Fordow. So Iran was in a position where like, all right, you're not even going to take out my nuclear facilities, and we can just bomb Tel Aviv, and their defenses are done. And then you have the nerve to send ground troops into Iran that deeply unpopular with the American people. That's why they agreed to a ceasefire. They wouldn't agree to a ceasefire if things was going well. That's because Donald Trump got them in a conflict they could not win. And that's why it's funny. That's why there's the Magco where Trump is lashing out at the media because people bring up all the intelligence reports that bring up what everyone knew, that they don't know where the facilities are. And even if they did know where the facilities are, they don't have any mechanisms to take them out.
Load them up, yeah.
He's simply incompetent. Like, simply not even good at doing what he's trying to do. Like, even with the Ukraine war, Donald Trump is making these.
He hasn't ended that yet. That was one of his fucking promises. That's why, like I said, I like some things he does, but these cult people, like, how are they not going to criticize that? He ran on anti-war, hasn't ended that war, and he almost just got us to do a fucking other big war. And if we still might, it's not over yet. But I mean, I am thankful the fact that he didn't launch into a full war. So I guess he needs his credit where he gets it. I think it's part of his ego, though. I think his ego is hurt by Netanyahu, because when you see the thing where he's like, you turn those planes around right now, then Netanyahu like hung up the phone and dropped the bombs anyways. That was a huge, and you've seen him irate in the morning being like, you know, all pissed off, which I do think that part, I mean, hopefully though, I don't think it'll happen, but it'd be great if there's some kind of divide over Trump's ego with Netanyahu, which that's the best chance I see of him getting sick of getting him. I mean, because Netanyahu kind of publicly humiliated him, I think kind of intentionally. Remember he came to the White House, Trump pulled out his chair, he gave him a golden pager as a gift. The pagers, obviously, that's kind of like a death threat. They gave the pagers to kill people. If he does this, he's just, I mean, I think he was the first to call and congratulate Joe Biden after Trump was claiming he didn't lose. So Netanyahu's done nothing but disrespect Trump. And it's like, he had to go and end with like a fuck you to Trump just to kind of, I think, show the world who answers to who. And hopefully that'll get Trump's ego, but I think he's too controlled.
Yeah, I need to see Trump treat Netanyahu the same way he treated Zelensky in the White House.
Yeah, that'd be awesome to see.
But for me to be happy, we've seen them coordinate with these public beats. I'm always very skeptical of these stories because there's usually a reason why these stories are planted. Like if there's stories about Trump being frustrated with Netanyahu, they usually come from White House aide who have a reason to put that. I'm not gonna be satisfied with Trump and his being disappointed with Netanyahu until I see he arrests Netanyahu. Right now, what Donald Trump is doing is international threatening the ICC. He's threatening to sanction the ICC for charging Benjamin Netanyahu for war crimes. So as long as he's doing that, I don't see any real split.
Yeah, I think real quick we need to point out how ridiculous this is. There's an international organization. They said he's committed war crimes, has an international arrest warrant, and instead of going after him, we're going after the international community that says he's doing war crimes. That's just insane. That shows you how fucking controlled we are. Yeah, that's why you're obsessed with Israel. It's like they say they just want to be left alone. It's like, no, you don't. You want to fucking completely dominate our government. while you're killing children, and I'm fucking sick of it. I'm not just gonna sit here and let you fucking kill kids and laugh about it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, law and order, right? Like these are the same people who say law and order. And meanwhile, they are lawless tyrants. And I'm actually kind of curious on your thoughts about that as well, because there's a big right wing criticism of defund the police, and it always confuses me. I started the organization called 10 Demands, and we were very explicit that I want to defund the police. I don't understand why people are shy about that. And that's why I want to get your pick. I know you're on the right. I know you talk to people on the right.
Yeah.
Like the whole concept of defunding the police was a libertarian idea. Like, it's not even a Marxist idea. Like so I see people on the right like, no, we should have giant military spending because I feel unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
What? Like, that is not a manly position? How is that the manly position? I want a giant nanny state because I'm afraid that someone gonna. No, I believe we need to keep government limited. Like, we need to keep the power of these thugs limited. So, what's your thought? Like,
Yeah,
I hate that idea, right?
Yeah, no, I'm really torn on that one because, like,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the police. I think they totally walk all over our rights. They do all kinds of bullshit. I was, back when I was poor, they fucked with me and shit. They haven't in years, had no problems with. They fuck with, like I said, they fuck with poor whites and shit too. So no, I don't have the best thought of police, but then you also get these high crime areas where you need some sort of policing. So like, well, I wouldn't be necessarily against it, but there has to be some kind of solution of people coming in, stepping in, where you deal with these people. Like, what would be your solution? Something like that?
Yeah, I think we need to invest in public safety. Like, you guys know that the modern policing is a new invention. Like, it's the result of the industrial age. Like, before they just had night watches. They had because
took care of our own.
Yeah,
it was usually a few people causing the problems. You take care of them. Go ahead. Oh, just say like there's usually a few people causing the problems. Before it's like they get taken out. If someone just keeps harassing you, it's like, okay, I'm gonna take care of this myself. So people would be a little more. They'd be a little more careful for the disrespecting you. Like online, everyone's like yapping away, talking shit, but in the real world, you get your ass kicked. And back, not that long ago, someone could literally challenge you to a duel. That was like the norm, like 100 years ago. Oh, you want to disrespect me? I challenge you to a duel. Now you got to face off, and one of us is gonna fucking maybe die. So it's like you need a little like accountability.
But important to remember though, especially when it comes to high crime areas, is that no one is gang banging in the suburbs. You know what I mean? When you look at people who are higher income, there's not any. There's like shoplifting and petty white collar crime, but when you take care of people's material needs, between that community, you can have community watches, a lot of different ways to get power back to the community. But that's how society's done it. 99% of human existence. You had the rise in the industrial age, and capitalists realized that they needed to protect their wealth from the rising anger of the working class. So they created these organized militias called the police. Now, I understand that if you want to feel a need for public safety, but you guys realize that the New York PD spends 3 times more than North Korea does on their military. How much money do we need to spend for people to feel safe? So this is the argument, and I've been driving crazy. That's why I wanted to ask you about this, because I've seen people misrepresent the defund the police movement so much. And I'm like, bro, I feel like we have the moderate position. We like, man, if you guys feel like you're unsafe, and you mentioned how there are areas with high crime rates, okay, how do we have high crime rates where you guys spend so much money on the police? Isn't that a sign that it's not working? And we should be doing something.
I would like to get under the police. It would just need to be like very like done right. You got to start getting in there with the program first, take times. And back to the police real quick, like the ATF, remember like David Koresh, they went and surrounded his place. I don't know how many people they killed, maybe 60, 70. They came in, invaded them, a shootout. They ended up burning the building down after a standoff, killing, I don't know the exact number, maybe 30, 40 children. Ruby Ridge was another one right before that where they came in. A guy was like, maybe he sold an illegal gun or something. So they come in, they sniped his wife while he was holding his baby, killed the guy's wife. These are the police. So this is a white guy who did this too. So this is like these are people that the right wing talks about when they're against policing. So it's good to show both sides like, hey, these guys aren't necessarily our friend. They come in, fucking sniped, killed this guy, Ruby Ridge, killed his wife and kid for no reason. With the David Koresh and I don't know how many people killed, but 67 people they killed there. Recently there was like a biker thing in Texas, and the ADF circled that. The original story was the bikers, shoot out, killed like 15 of each other, and then eventually the ATF goes, oh, well, we killed some or all of the bikers. They basically came in with guns. Bikers as soon as they got in a fight, they just like sprayed them with machine guns. So it's like the police a lot of times are the problems. I mean, there is times, where we need some kind of help, but I think ultimately it would be nice to face the police help.
Yeah, and I that's why I like talking to people on the right, because they say stuff that is I can agree with. They say stuff like they don't believe the government should tread on us. Now, many times what happened is that police officers will shoot someone because they believe they have a gun, right? That's the excuse that they use. Like, I thought we have a Second Amendment. So the question is, if a police officer can shoot you because you have a gun, do we really have a Second Amendment? If the government can just tread on it, we have something called civil asset forfeiture, where the police can just steal your wealth, and many times they get away with it because they accuse you of a crime.
Yep. And treat you in drug dealing and take your houses without, you don't have to get convicted first. Like, you could be flying, people are flying you like $50,000, $100,000, like the gamblers and stuff, and they can just seize your cash with no warrant, nothing, just be like, oh, it's our money now because we think it might be illegal. It's just insane the government can do that. And this is an area we are the right and left should do.
People be worried about like where exactly we should land, but I think we also agree we should get rid of that, right? You know what I mean? And I am a believer of personal sovereignty. I don't want any like overlords under us. That's why I find it weird when people accuse Marxists and accuse us of being like the heavy authoritarians. We don't want a police state. We just want a state that have coherent central planning models. We don't want a giant police state. I support armed resistance. I support having an armed proletariat. That's what a lot of people on the right will support.
So you support the Second Amendment?
Absolutely. So, and I don't even like guns like that because I
think we need them like just for irony, you know? We need the guns. It just makes the government less likely to be able to come in and like walk all over us. It's like, there is a problem with the guns for sure. I'm not like crazy, like, oh, one of these gun nuts, but like, you do come a point where like, okay, maybe it is smart to have a gun. You know, someone comes in your fucking home, it's better to have the ability to defend yourself than not.
Yeah, under no means should the working class ever give up their guns. And once again, I say that as someone who's biased, because I'm not even a big fan of guns, because it evens the playing field too much between us. Like, can you imagine how stoppable you would be, Jake, if you didn't worry about having guns?
Yeah, we should.
Like, we should be biased against guns, but hey, man, I don't think the government should be having that kind of power.
The thing is, too, there's no way we're getting rid of all the guns out there, so it's like better, you know. So I might as well have guns if people that are against you and have them, then I should have them. Plus, the government, it makes it a lot harder for them to take over. Unfortunately, you get now with like the drones and all that shit, it could be hard, fighting the government, but we still got to have at least some kind of ability to fight them. I mean, look at the Hamas has, held resistance against Israel for 2 years now, and they're still fighting on because like they have courage. The Israelis, I'm sure when they're getting bombed, you see them, they're crying in the shelters and throwing tears, and it was just they were just the biggest fucking babies after they've been bombing, mocking Palestinians, but they're still fighting. I feel terrible for them, but like, what are you gonna do when your whole family's already been killed? Of course you're gonna fight on. If like, I don't understand what they call Hamas terrorists. They're freedom fighters. How do you call someone a terrorist who's defending their fucking home? See, like insane.
That's why you said earlier. We agree, and this is what the establishment is afraid of. We agree a lot more than people would.
That's why they don't like it talking, sitting down. That's why I like talking to people on the other side, because we don't agree 100%, but like you make your points, and like the defund the police, like when you explain it, like it sounds crazy at first, but like maybe both sides want that eventually. It's not something you just can. Oh, there's no police overnight, but like if the police are treading all over our rights, being assholes, taking our shit, like
not out of control,
roughing you up. It's like, yeah, why do we want these people? And like I said, for the right needs to see it, like, hey, look at it in Ruby Ridge. That's a famous case where they shot a guy's wife for no reason, and the David Koresh, and like these, when they go and do it to people on the right. So it's not just because they can be like, oh, black people in inner cities, but when you see like, hey, they're doing it to white people too, and maybe black people can see like, hey, they kill white people too, to realize it's not just a black versus white thing.
Yeah,
it's power versus the people.
Yeah, it's all about limiting the power of the corrupt ruling class, and that's what we want to do. We want to bring them to heel. That's that at least what people will view as the far left. That's what our general goal is, and that's why I'm glad you said that, because there's like that on the right. If you say this among like the MAGA crowd, they will flip out if you say you believe Hamas had the right to defend them. So that is the principal position. Hell, we can't even get left-wing politicians to say that. Like Bernie Sanders is considered the most progressive politician in the United States, but I can't stand him because he's a genocidal Zionist who robs the Palestinians of the right to engage in armed defense. Like, for example, if you're someone who pretends to support Palestinians when they're dying, are you going to support them when they have successful victories and resistance? I'm not one of those people who just mourn dead Palestinians. I cheer when they are successful, because when you talk about don't tread on me, when you talk about what it means to be a gun owner, to someone who stand up for your rights, these are things that white America generally idolize. Like don't tread on me, we will fight against tyranny, but then whenever they see, for the most part, whenever they see another group doing it, like Palestinians against the United States government, they will be against them. What do you guys think would happen if we ever did, like, the Democrats actually accomplish like some sort of liberal dictatorship, and they demand your guns to be taken away? Who will be the one who does it? The state. Now, I am open. I think that's why these conversations are important, like finding the right solution. I'm not saying I have the right solution for all of these. The only thing is, bro, the police state in the giant real authoritarianism, which is capitalism. Capitalism is the true authoritarianism. It has gone out of control. They got fucking military tanks going down the streets. They tear gassing citizens, which is a war crime, by the way. So you can't tear gas people in war. So why can't they tear gas Americans? I was tear gassed by the KCPD. Like, why? I don't understand why Americans would even accept that. And I think if we fought against this level of tyranny, bro, I promise, and maybe some people don't believe me, bro, I promise you, we will come to agreement on much more than a lot of people think. Once we get rid of these scumbags, you know what I mean? Once we get rid of people in power that hoard it all, right?
You know, and I would like a left-right populist movement. You know, we're not going to agree on everything, but you look and it's like we can agree on enough, I think, to temporarily get along and like get rid of the Zionists, work to like, you know, less police abuse, less militarization of the police. I don't want these police with these fucking giant machine guns and tanks and stuff. It doesn't sound like you do either. You know, like let's put some money into these black communities. Let's like try to build them up with education and programs. Like, you know, maybe get some fucking. I think average Americans should want free fucking healthcare. I think they've been brainwashed by being Marxist. You shouldn't have fucking healthcare. Like how fucking dumb you gotta be. Like, oh, we should pay Israel's healthcare. Every single other country in the world, Western country in the world has it. So I'm not saying we shouldn't build it. We should have for-profit hospitals too. But the very basis, there should be like a state-funded hospital that could be free at least. You know, maybe the care is not quite as good as the top paid, but it should at least be an option.
Yeah, and majority of the working class and majority of Americans agree. I say it all the time on my show. I said, when I looked at polling, I saw 1/3 of Republicans supported single-payer health care. And I'm like, bro, that's a lot. like if you think about it, that's actually a lot. Like long
considering they consider they're breaking from the party.
Yeah.
And because that's a lot of people are great.
That's a great unifying issue. And that's why I take great offense with the strategy. Because I think people like Bernie and them, they heard our cause for a very long time by hitching their wagon to the corrupt Democratic Party. So why would you trust any left that support Kamala Harris? Like, why would we support any left that support Joe Biden? So of course that wouldn't work. But we have our own interests in mind, and we just acknowledge that we will have cultural differences that can't be overcome, right? And we just realize, all right, let's make sure we have the best for each other. Let's make sure we root out corruption and make sure that we have a government that's accountable to all, right?
Hey guys, Jake Schultz here. As you know, I have a free speech podcast. To keep that going, it's important to have sponsors and support them. If you want to support them and me, go to antelopehillpublishing.com and be sure to use the promo code FIGHTBACK. They have tons of different books that are hard to get. Today I recommend Opiate of the Masses. It's a full journalistic investigation into the opiate crisis in America. So again, to support the podcast, antelopehillpublishing.com and the promo code FIGHTBACK.
No, it's true. I mean, some of these social issues, they might be a real issue, but like they're not really, the government for the most part is not going to solve them, like you said. And that gets put to the forefront when really to be back. Like, I'm not a fan of I don't think the trans should be pushed on kids. I don't think it should be in sports. It's like a problem, but it's not the biggest problem in the country. So it's like, yeah, it is an issue. As an athlete, I think it's annoying when I see, it's always the trans women dominating the women's competition, never trans men. I know the difference in athletes. So to me, it's like, yeah, that's annoying and it's an issue, but it's not the biggest issue. There's big issues.
And to be fair, I understand why people will want to talk about that, but I think that should be a local community issue. Like the trans issue should be about whether the sports league will allow that, and then there could be a popular backlash if they agree or they disagree. But I think the government should be staying out of it. I'm always side-eyed whenever I see like Trump. Like whenever you see a politician weighing on these things, like, what, you about to craft legislation? Like that's not your job. That's something that we, the people in the culture, should be solving. We shouldn't be allowing ourselves to be distracted by these kind of things.
No, exactly. We just have to culturally push against this. It's not the thing. It's not the strongest things to legislate against. I wanted to ask you because it was the New York case right now. I can't know the guy's name, but I don't know much about him. I see everyone just freaking out over the Muslim that won. And I don't think
I want an air race.
Yeah, I just know he was anti-Zionist. At this point, I don't live in New York, so I don't give a shit. I think it's kind of funny he won, but just watching the meltdown, people are mad at me because I haven't really, why isn't Jake Schultz commented on this? Like, 'cause I don't fucking care. I don't live there. I think it just shows you, people are sick of fucking there's bullshit, Zionist shit. So people rebelled against it. And I don't really know much about this guy's opinions, to be honest. I don't know if I like him or don't. I just don't really give a shit because I don't live in New York. I used to live there. If you're in New York, I would have followed the race. But I still, at this point, I'm not going to vote for a Zionist, period. Like, maybe I won't vote, not necessarily vote. Like, I didn't vote for Kamala Harris. I'm just not voting if someone's hardcore Zionist. That's a point for me where
I'm not going to believe that the electoral politics system not really going to change anything. Like voting for either one of these red or blue people not going to change anything. The Zoran win is very hilarious though, because it's a giant propaganda win for us. It's a giant loss for the Zionists because they made the entire race a referendum on Zionism.
Yep.
Like they made it for. They could have easily ran on, oh, this guy believe in deep the police. Because I will admit that we haven't won everyone over on that issue yet. They could easily like pick out one of these like niche issues and use that to attack Zoran, but they made a horrible mistake thinking that if they make it about Zionism, they will lose, or they will win, and they got blown out. So I like talking about that, but I'm not confident in the Zoran guy in terms of challenging power. He was funded by the Workers' Family Party, who takes money from George Soros. Now he's partying with the same squad people that sell us out, and he's a little bit too close for me. I tell people now, because I don't believe in any politicians, you should let these politicians surprise you. Like, don't be disappointed by politicians. I'd rather shit talk a politician like, damn, he was better than I thought, than let any politician be better. You know what I mean? I'm not being holier than now, man. I fell for politicians. I fell for Obama while I was a young dumbass. I fell for Bernie too. But now, after I'm going through those life experiences, I think we need to focus more on movement building. Like you said, bringing left and right together, which none of these politicians are really trying to do. I think we should need to completely ignore and you do. I think you're right when you say I don't give a fuck about this. Yeah, why should you? Like until they give you a reason, I don't think the system is going to be changed by that. In fact, it tends to be like a tranquilizing drug for a lot of people, where instead of actually putting work in to improve their own communities, to improve themselves, they just vote for a politician every 2 to 4 years and they stop doing any work after that. You know what I mean?
No, it's true. I think that's a big one too. Is actually, I mean, the politicians do make a big difference, but it's also you have to get your own life in order first. Like when I see people crying over president, it's like, it's not going to affect my life that big of a difference whether it's a Republican or Democrat. Like you said, they're both fucking incompetent, pieces of shit. So I haven't voted the last election. I did vote for Trump, I guess 2 elections, but I fell for it a little bit. The first time I think I more voted for him because it was kind of a fuck you to I was living in San Francisco and people were just so smug that it was funny watching them cry. It was just funny watching everyone break down cry. So just for that alone, it was worth it for Trump. But then you realize, he's full of shit too. When I saw him in there, he ain't doing anything. That's why these MAGA people, I think everything he does is some master 5D or 6D chess game plan. You're like, I wish that was the case, but I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, I was so happy when Hillary lost. Like I was celebrating. Like people don't understand how much of a bullet we dodged with Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, she was probably worse than Trump. That's the thing. These politicians are so bad that you have to.
100% would have been worse than Trump. Like in my opinion, she 100% would have been worse than Trump.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I despise Obama and I left Barack Obama. Many people on the left, we oppose Obama because he served the military-industrial complex. He took George W. Bush's war and increased it to 2 to 7. Had a record amount of drone strikes. So despite all the war crimes that Barack Obama committed, Hillary Clinton was openly running, saying that Barack Obama was too weak. She was saying that she was going to have a tough, aggressive foreign policy that's going to make Obama look like a teenage girl. When I saw that, I'm like, bro, I think Israel was going to engage in the final solution if Hillary would have won. The same way they were confident in doing that when Joe Biden won. Joe Biden is one of the biggest AIPAC core politicians we ever seen. His entire career was made by AIPAC. So I don't think there's a coincidence that Israel decided to engage in their final solution to Palestinians when Joe Biden got in charge. I think if Hillary Clinton would have won, we would have seen everything escalate super fast, way quicker. Ukraine war would have escalated way quicker. Conflict against China over Taiwan would escalate way quicker. And God help the Palestinians. God help the Syrians. God help people in Lebanon. They're not going through great things right now, but Hillary Clinton had the entire plan drawn up to destabilize the country. So, yeah, trust me, I was very celebratory. I understand why people got caught up in the culture or whatever, what Donald Trump represented. I just hope people realize especially now, that he don't serve your interests, and we shouldn't be getting caught up in the wave of the culture. And we need to start being serious about politics, considering especially how much we are falling behind China and anyone who has a competent planning model.
Yeah, no, one thing though, Trump does seem a little more anti-war than Hillary, at least. Yeah, he still serves her interests. He's bombed a few places, but like I said, she's a complete war hawk. I think Obama bombed like 7 countries, and she wanted to do more. I think this is insane. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
doesn't have
somebody labels.
ideology. I don't think. Like he doesn't have a real ideology, so he can be either persuaded, and that would happen in the first term. Like John Bolton was kind of persuading him, Mike Pompeo persuading him. Now you have a lot of Zionists like Marco Rubio, Mike Huckabee persuading him. But having a president you have to drag along kind of makes it a little bit less efficient. Like when you look at Hillary Clinton, though, she has a very coherent neoliberal ideology of world domination, and she playing this shit like a chessboard as well, which ultimately make them. I'm telling people on the left this all the time. The Democrats are the most effective evil. Like if anything, it's better for us when Trump wins, because now that Trump wins, people are now paying attention to all his crimes. Like whenever a Republican wins, they tend to be very incompetent when it comes to serving the empire in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, I think the right's the opposite. We'll pay more attention to the crime if like Hillary or someone's in, then we're always watching. But when Trump's in, like a lot of the people are kind of like, oh, pretending not to see, getting mad at me when I'm pointing the shit out. And something hypocritical, real quick, go back to like, I was never really, Democrat or Republican, but I was super opposed to the Iraq war. But I remember the Democrats were the ones, protested with me with that one. But then it switches. The Democrats come super pro-war with Ukraine. So for me, I go, okay, I guess I'm free speech, anti-war, so I guess I'm part of the right. Then all of a sudden, Israel comes into to Palestine, and the right just switch pro-war. It's like, oh, both sides are completely full of shit hypocrites. They'll pretend like they're pro-war, free speech until it's about Israel. On the left, oh, now we want war for Ukraine. So you realize like 80% of people, maybe more, just follow what the party says, and that's kind of scary.
Yeah, that's why I advocate for third parties. Like even if you're to the right, I'm upset that many people on the right didn't vote for libertarian support. Their own whatever the own libertarian movement is. I think the most important thing is to challenge the duopoly. We call ourselves post-duopoly leftists all the time because that's what happens. You have these people now who they are only immigration activists. For example, when a Republican is in charge, like you see all these people protesting ICE, like you see, and these people they disgust me. I talk about it on the RBN, my show, all the time. Like these people who protesting ICE, Joe Biden funded ICE more than Trump. He deported.
He deported twice as many, right? I think like twice as many as Trump.
Not only that, the conditions of ICE under Joe Biden was so bad. They had people going on hunger strike to protest because they wasn't getting proper medical care.
They won't call it out when it's their guy. It's interesting how one side won't call it out. They freaked out over the kids in cages with Trump, but then Biden's doing the whole thing and they're just silent on it. It just shows you the hypocrisy of the two-party system. It's the same when you really mean, you just follow along. So
yeah, and that's the kind of stuff I can't stand. That's why I spent like a lot of my time over the last few years calling out this rabid inconsistency. And I told people at the time that I was covering the Biden, all the crimes that ICE committed under Biden, and none of the Democrats cared. None of the liberals were tweeted. They pretended it wasn't an issue. And then the second that Trump wins, all of a sudden you have AOC crying at the border when Trump won, but not under Biden. Like that kind of hypocrisy disgusts me. And if anything, it actually undercuts a solid left message. It hurts what the left's supposed to be about, because people see that fakeness and they're like, oh, why would I be part of the left? Why would I care about anything you're saying when you're that much of a hypocrite? You know what I mean? That's why I don't like it. The duopoly thing will never work.
No, I don't like hypocrisy. Like for me, that's why I kind of for a minute started to think, okay, I guess I'm part of, the right, the free speech, anti-war. And then October 7th happened. I realized like, oh, I'm not part of this party. Now I see these Republicans, their whole interest, a lot of them is for Israel before the American people. So it's like, there's no way I'm voting for them. But then the Democrats, they're no better. So it's like, at this point, I'm not voting unless someone steps in. I like, you're Thomas Massey. I like him. You have any thoughts on him? Or I don't know all those issues, but he's going hard against.
I think I like he challenges his party. Yeah, I think Thomas Massey is definitely the best among them. I have strong disagreements on his economic policies, obviously, but I love the fact that he challenged the AIPAC. He's anti-war. I won't complain on him. Like I heard he had a lot of cringe things. Like what he said about healthcare is very cringe. And he's like, well, if we have universal healthcare, you will make doctors will be enslaved. I'm like, if you don't want to treat people, don't be a doctor. Like that's just how. Like the same way, if you're a firefighter and you're like, man, I don't want to take that person. I don't want to take out the fire and that person. Fuck that guy. You should be a firefighter.
Taking that call.
Yeah. So
That's a good point.
I have some complaints about Thomas Massey about that stuff, but I don't want to hate on him too much because he is the best among
He's the best of the options
one.
right now. Like you said, maybe you have to rally behind someone that's the best of the options if they're really going against the Zionist thing. For me, temporarily, I would go against someone that I didn't like some of their policies if they were, going hard against the Zionists. And then you can say about those things later. But no, that's a good point with the doctors, like how you use a fireman, like, oh, I don't want to take that fire. Or you could do, like I said earlier, like private hospitals and public hospitals. There's no reason why you couldn't do a split between the two. It's not like I think they do that in Canada.
Yeah, and doctors internationally who are under a single payer healthcare system, they much prefer that. Like, do you guys think doctors love doing the massive paperwork that
Oh,
involves
they hate the insurance stuff. A lot of times they'll give you like big breaks when you go cash and shit because they don't like, do it. I don't go to the hospital that much, so I'd prefer, just not have.
I haven't been to a doctor in 15 years. My strategy is make sure I don't eat horribly and stay in.
Exactly. We should look at taking care of ourselves. That's another thing too. We should take care of ourselves first. Like I say, okay, yeah, we should have free healthcare, but we shouldn't be relying upon it. And I think maybe this for-profit hospital is part of the problem. They want to give them on drugs. They don't want people to eat these ways. They want them obese. They want them eating like shit. So they keep coming in. So they're not trying to cure the disease. They're just trying to, keep them coming back month after month.
Yeah, I think that's another reason why I think single payer is the best option because it helps with preventive care. Ultimately, and that's why many studies show that private healthcare turns out to be more expensive because people can't afford preventive care, which leads to more expensive treatment later on. So yeah, 100%. I think with once again this part of the whole pro-family policy thing, like if you paying people a living wage, if people actually able to have time off and engage in training. I know many people, they work so hard, but in order to pay their rent, they have to work 2-3 jobs. They don't have time to go to the gym like that. And then in order to eat, they got to eat out of the vending machine, they eating junk food. So I think this is important, what I advocate for. I think what any working class movement should advocate for is a strong pro-health agenda. And so whenever I heard RFK Jr. talk about make America healthy again, I was 100% all for that. You know what I mean? And people who truly on the left should be for that. We would just ask, like, what are the economic policies that would enable that? Do people have access to healthcare? Do people have access to physical therapy? Do people have access to training? I think these are all ideas that we can agree on and we can help cultivate, and not very available to the American working class right now.
No, I think, yeah. And food, the healthy food is a lot more expensive. Like the cheap food, that is super unhealthy. So you go to these, like the black communities, you go there, look at all the McDonald's, same thing in poor white areas. It's just absolute shit foods who don't have good options. These are the kinds of things that try to subsidize, get jiu-jitsu programs for these kids in these poor areas, and I say poor areas instead of just black areas, because I think it should be all poor kids. If you have something to, when I was a kid, I couldn't go train in the shakes, and luckily I got wrestling, which is cheap. But if you don't have money, you can't go train jiu-jitsu and stuff as a kid. The jiu-jitsu gyms are expensive, so it's like you can't, like, there ain't no way the poor people are sending their kids to those gyms. But if you get these kids doing something, a lot of times that's when you stay out of trouble. When I was young, I was getting in trouble. Once I started jiu-jitsu and fighting, I stopped getting in trouble because I had something to focus on. Yeah. So a lot of young men, they just need something to focus on.
Yeah, I was very lucky that I started training jiu-jitsu like the best time before it got stupid expensive. Like now, like jiu-jitsu training is crazy. But I was big into MMA during the Pride era, and I used to love Nogueira. I used to watch Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. I trained jiu-jitsu because of that, and that was like the best time to get into. Now it's like crazy expensive. I think that's one of the things that, and this is what I advocate on my channel, Revolutionary Black, how mutual aid comes in many different forms. Mutual aid is not charity. It's how we build community. One thing I'll provide free training to people. I come from boxing. Give free training to people in your community. That's a great way to bond with each other. That's a great way to keep people out of trouble. And that's one of the biggest things that harm the black community, the lack of that. The NBA, really turned basketball to like a bourgeoisie sport where like all these kids you see in the NBA, they're all rich. They all come from rich families, and now like there's like a barrier of entry in a lot of these sports. And this happened over the last few decades of the barrier of entry between the communities. People being separated, being pulled farther apart. Well, advocating what I think is the most important is community, coming together as a community, not trusting over oligarchs, not trusting overlords, not allowing them to distract us with nonsense and not engaging in false beefs, but communicating with each other, teaching each other skills, going back to the communal style that the ruling class never wanted us to live, because it's easier to keep us separated and divided otherwise, right?
Oh yeah, they want you with no community, and the community is absolutely crucial. I get it through jujitsu and fighting. I think a lot of people. I'm not religious, but I think church was good for a lot of people because they all went in. They went with their
Yeah.
community. They would get together. They would stay there. And now, recently, like I said, the families have gotten broken down both in the black and the white communities. Most white people don't have these large families either. A lot of times they have a father in the home, but they don't have this large family networks we used to have 100 years ago. And the community, the ties, like people are missing this. That's why depression, drug abuse is so high. For me, thankfully, for you train jitsu and stuff, there's a huge community there. But humans need this, and it's missing. I think that's something we need to work on rebuilding, especially for young people. Like, I grew up more of a poor white area. There's Native Americans and stuff, but like, you look at haven't spent much time like in the Black Hoods, but like, what do they have there? Nothing, right? So what are you going to do when there's nothing to do after school? Especially if you don't have a dad at home, their moms are out working till late. There's nothing to do but gangbanging and shit. You have music encourage them to doing it. You got no money, so it's easy to see how it could turn bad really quick when no alternative.
Yeah, and we need a societal purpose. And I know this may make some people on the right uncomfortable, but there's a reason why there's like cohesion among the Chinese culture. They have a grand vision on how to transform the society. It's not about just profits, you know what I mean? They had a 10-year plan to build high-speed rail, and they accomplished it. They built all these infrastructure programs. They put people to work. And that what happened in the Soviet Union. They like, let's put people to work. Let's have a grand vision. I know it's like the right criticism, all central planning. No, if we have a grand vision, we educate our people, and we become builders. We have a vision of society where everyone is uplifted. That kind of brings people together inherently. You know what I mean? To have this vision, to have the training, does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense what I'm saying there.
No, it does. I think we 100%, like as a people, this is actually really important in America because like we are a bunch of different races and cultures, and I talked to a couple of white nationalists and they're like, they're against like, okay, there's no cohesion to pull us together, which isn't, it's a valid point. But for me, coming from MMA and jiu-jitsu, I've been able to go along with all minorities and get along great because we have something in common, something to bind it together. So I think as America, we need to find something to bind us together. When there's black, white, Asian, Mexican, we got to find some purpose to get us when we're all working on the same team. Because if we don't have that, then it's like, oh, I'm black, you're white. How can we pick at each other versus how can we work together? And if you have some, like, for me, I come from or you train jiu-jitsu as well. Everyone's totally equal on the mats. Doesn't matter how much money you make, your wealth. That's the one place where it's truly you're equals. And it's like, and you're working towards the same goal. And I think as a country, we need to figure out something to get us all working together.
And luckily, Zionism is kind of providing that, right? Like, you found me because my anti-Zionist tweet. And I may be delusional. We can end us a little optimism here. What if, and we're just whispering of a dream here, right? What if the fight against Zionism is that mechanism? Like, what if we realize that these Zionist scum have been purposely pushing culture wars to divide us? What if we realize, like, man, we really fucked up here over the last few decades, fall for this, but what if we unite? I know we have differences.
Like really positivity.
Yeah,
I think that's like the point,
man. We have no.
I mean, that's why we're on alleged opposite ends. We're sitting here talking, feeling like, hey, let's get at least a temporary uniting together against these people that are totally fucking us over, putting us against each other. And it's like, I don't know to what extent. I know some people. I don't know if this is true or not and shit. But like David Duke and like the Nation Islam, they try to say that slave trade mostly Jewish, and then through Hollywood and shit. This one I don't know if that's true or not. But if like that's true, and they pit us against each other through movies, making everyone resentful and angry towards each other, playing us against each other when they're the ones playing it. So if that's true, I don't know, but I do know for sure they are manipulating our country. They are massacring people. They are a problem, and we do need to unite and get them stop controlling our fucking government.
Yeah. I'm not even that aware of the David Duke argument in general, but organizing based on race will never be the way to go, because who do you think gonna take advantage of that? The people who look like you, who don't have your interest in mind. That's always be the flaw. And that would a lot. Don't get me wrong. Black people made the same mistake too. It's like not me being holder. Now we got all these people going for the Black Congressional Caucus. The Black Congressional Caucus are some of the most evil people in Washington D.C. You guys realize, right? Like the people who are the most pro-war, the most pro-Wall Street, they all come from the Black Congressional Caucus. So organizing based on race is a fool's errand, and it has failed humanity. Because I would say that people organize on race for the majority of humanity, for the 99% of humanity. We've been naturally programmed to organize based on race, and how have that served the ordinary peasant who struggled throughout human history? It has not been a successful endeavor. So that's why I'm glad to have this conversation with you. And once again, I'm very depressing that many people on the right don't invite me on because I'm always willing to talk to people on the right. And that's saying what people like to talk to people on the right. If people has been programmed that way, I think most importantly is organizing among the class consensus of the best for the working class, meaning people who are class traders. If you're doing well in life, as long as you want to see people uplifted, because once again, we're not about punishing people who are successful. We want people to be successful. That's
yes.
everyone.
If you'd still be able to get rich under your version of communism, maybe not billionaire, but you'd still be able to like work, do small businesses, that type of stuff.
No, we want to reward people who build. We want to reward people who engage in society, which is the inherent flaw of capitalism. Because there's so many people who work hard and their labor is stolen, and they realize that they're like, "What's the point of doing this?" So we want a society full of builders, people who are rewarded for the work, and people feel a sense of value in their work. You know what I mean? So even me, like some people like to shoo a burger flipper, for example. They're, oh, he's a burger flipper. He should make that much money. But let think about it like this though. There's in Kansas City, I just sell cars, and there's this area called Overland Park, which is extremely busy. This is where all the business is done. This is where most people work at. And there's this area where all these fast food workers work at, and they are dealing with constant busy workers every single day. So what are they doing for society? They are providing energy to the people who are working every single day. They are feeding our people every single day. So that's why I find it actually pretty disgusting. People are like, oh, you just a bird flipper. You don't deserve much. What do you mean? The process of feeding the working class, let's say you don't think their job is important. Okay. There are construction workers.
Who's going to do it? Yeah.
So don't they deserve to be taken care of? And that what many societies have figured out, where even in countries who don't, I think systems don't go far enough, but they have McDonald's workers who make around $20 an hour, like in Norway, Sweden, I think their system is very modern in a lot of ways. But to me, if you have a giant profitable company, there is zero reason for your workers to be doing profitable as well. Now, if your company is struggling, I mean, capital can come out of nowhere, and that's where meritocracy comes from in the system. If you're inherently generating wealth, we have no reason to punish you. We just don't believe you should own an oil rig. You know what I mean? And it may be where our disagreements come from, because we're not coming after your private property. I don't care about your TV, Jake. I don't care about
you doing so much.
I don't think you should own oil. I don't think you should own a hospital. And these are things we can debate on whether that we should own this or own that. But that's the word, the meritocracy at communism start. Well, who are you engaging with our society? What are you doing? And in this system, people who are work, we reward workers. We don't punish workers. We want workers to build. We want you to work hard, and we want you to transform our society. This system, sorry to rant, but this ideology is what led to the infrastructural revolution in China. That's why they have high-speed rail. That's why they have breaking-edge science. That's why workers care, because there's like a natural, like, patriotism behind the dignity of work. And it was getting not perfect, but if you are advocating taking care of the workers and having good policies for that, you will have a much more productive and happy society. I don't want to rant too much. I could.
No, it's good. Just real quick, back to the first point of the shitting on workers. You're right. People are working hard. Like, how are you going to shit someone for working? It's like the same people, you're shitting someone for welfare, but this guy's working, trying to provide for either himself or family, and you're shitting on him, you know? So I never like people like treat like the work staff like shit. It shows a character. And you had an interesting point when you said, should you be able to own the oil? That's a good question. If the oil's in American land, why do these companies get to come and take it? Like, you know, I think maybe you should be able to own a hospital, maybe different, or a big business that you build up. But like, if it's the oil that's in the country, why does a private company get to take it?
Yeah, and that's mostly the whole discussion about communism versus capitalism. And for the most part, like, what is the ruling class? What do they own? For in China, for example, I think it's around, I need to check, but I think like 68% of the GDP is state owned. So China, they just they're like, no, you can't have hospitals. You can't control energy. But if you hustling, you making money. That's why billionaires exist in China. And there's some people don't like that, but billionaires exist in China. People live a great life in China. You can be upper middle class. You see people buying these super expensive electric vehicles.
Massive.
So it's about rewarding work. That's the more important thing. I think, and this is my opinion after my life experience, capitalism punishes work. You know what I mean? You can work hard, but you're just making money for your boss with no overall end game that will gonna help the community out. But it's all about valuing work, valuing people who build. Education, like that's like one of the things that lead to violence. One thing that leads to a horrible neighborhood is lack of a coherent education system. And what we've seen in many countries in the West, where they drain resources from education to fund imperialism and never-ending war and funding the police state. That's why, once again, going back to the public safety thing, like, wouldn't it be better for public safety? We have people with books instead of guns pointed at them by police officers. So it's a theoretical debate, and these are things that we should be having conversations about. Like, what
Exactly, you should have the conversations because
table, but I think these are things that conversations I think is 100% valid. You know what I mean?
no, I agree. I think overall, I agreed with a lot of you said, not 100%, but you make a lot of points. It says how to get these solutions because we all want a better America, or we should. If you don't, you're a piece of shit. You should want a better America, and hopefully, and there's nothing wrong with being, I'm pro-white. You should be pro-black. Nothing wrong with being pro your race, but you don't want to be anti another race. I think that's what's the problem. Yes, and that's what people are. Yeah, so I'm pro-white, but I'm not anti-black. And it's like we're in a situation, or in America, whether you like it or not, the races are here. And it's, as far as you want the black people, you guys are brought here. So you can't say black people aren't Americans. That's what, when black nationalists like, oh, black people aren't Americans. Like, how can you say that when they were brought here against their choice? It's like a separate debate. We've come here more recently, but it's like, so we have to find a way. We have to find a way to work together because realistically, that's the situation. You guys aren't going anywhere. So the guys that say that seems kind of just unrealistic. So we need to work together and find a way to unify instead of push apart. That's my opinion.
Yeah, when you say you're pro-white, to me that sounds you just want to take care of your people. That if someone just say, "Oh, I'm pro-white," to me that has a negative connotation because when people say they're pro-white, I'm like, what? You don't care about anyone else? But if you care about taking care of people, there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you want to see everyone thrive. What hurt America is there's like this toxic version of patriotism. Well, they believe that you're patriotic because you cheer wars. Like, people think they're patriotic because they support politicians. No, you're patriotic if you support your people. I want my people to thrive more than anything else. The black community, where my poor white brothers and sisters thrive. It's all about wanting our people to thrive. That's what patriotism means. Meanwhile, you see these scum like Lindsey Graham. You see Ted Cruz. They're like, I don't care about the religious singing. Yeah, It was Mike Pence. I remember Mike Pence was asked about the American city. He was like, I don't care about the status of American. That's not my concern. That is a toxic, I would say, damn near treasonous ideology. True patriotism is when your people taken care of. True patriotism is wanting corruption to be held accountable, wanting your government to uphold their values, right? So when I see when it's pro-white, pro-black, do you care about your people? Do you care about taking
and all Americans? Do you want your country to be better? Because it's like, I want black people doing better too, because that's gonna be good for white people. It's overall, if the economy is doing good, they're not causing problems. You want black people thriving. Like, white people should want black people thriving. It's retarded not. They should want poor white people thriving. Everyone should want a big middle class. When people are poor, whether white, black, the crime's going to go up. So we all should push for people to do better. So no, I think we agree on a lot. Let's in real quick with what's the podcast you have? It's
make sure you guys check them out. Revolutionary Blackout Network. I go live around 3-4 times a week on YouTube.
Okay.
I interview people from all over the world, talking about geopolitics. Also release around 3 or 4 videos every week, cover foreign policy at Hotspot. Make sure you guys follow Hotspot for all my citizen journalism work.
Are you in YouTube and Rumble and X?
YouTube, Rumble, X, Socialist MMA. That's where I got my biggest following. On X, but I'm on YouTube on Revolutionary Blackout. Revolutionary Blackout is on all social media, Instagram, Facebook. Our biggest presence is on YouTube and on X, though.
Yeah, and your Socialist MMA is your
Socialist MMA, Nick Cruse. But make sure you guys follow the channel Revolutionary Blackout Network, and I also release videos on Hotspot on X as well. So it's good having this conversation. Once again, we didn't disagree on much at all. I know there's some details.
No, we know exactly. We agreed a lot. The details of the stuff, the problems. Like, can you sit down and make it work? I'm not sure, but it's like we both want what's better for the country, and we could see the system's not great right now. Like I said earlier, it's a rigged system. Like, I mentioned the 2008 bailouts. These guys crashed our fucking economy by making bad choices. They destroyed people. Like, people lost their homes like crazy, and instead of getting punished, they got bailed out and got richer. And that's just wild that, they caused, millions of families to lose their homes, crash the real estate market, crash the economy. And instead of them being punished for it, they get bailed out by billions. I think it turned into like trillions of dollars. And same thing with COVID. Most of that money, COVID money, went to the big businesses. And then, that causes inflation when they print money out of thin air. So like the regular American, like, prices went crazy inflation for a couple years after COVID. Like, I'm doing fairly well. And I'm looking at these prices being like, God damn, I couldn't imagine, struggling like a family trying to feed, like you said, with one income. You have to have 2 incomes.
Yeah, very well said. And one thing I appreciate you having me on, and one thing I would advocate for everyone to do, no matter what your ideology is, get involved somehow. I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about like doing something to help your neighbors. Like, for example, next month, me and my brother Rome, who co-founded Revolutionary Blackout with me, we're gonna have an event with the chairman, Fred Hampton Jr., the son of Fred Hampton in Chicago, about organizing, getting close to the people, developing class consciousness among the population, feeding them. You know what I mean? So these are things that we need to reject the individual. And I think this transcends ideology. We need to reject the individualism that's promoted towards us. Find a way to help your neighbor. Well, I'm not saying you got to do something big. Just start helping you.
Little things. I agree. It actually makes me, I haven't done enough to charity in a while. Because what happens is, trying to help out some of these charities, and I realize some of them are just fucking scams.
Yeah.
They're just like taking your money. Like I said, there's the one I worked for a while, like, oh, this is good. We're actually doing a lot of helpful work. But then some other ones I worked with, they're like trying to help the homeless and this. And you're like, oh, they're just scamming money from their donors. Like,
that's a whole nother conversation.
Flying us private planes, putting us up these fancy hotels. Like, I thought I'm working for a charity. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I shouldn't.
That's a conversation for another day. But
charity.
I always say I'm not a big fan of charity. I'm a fan of mutual aid and community building, and they are two completely different things. But that's a conversation.
Nailed it with that, and that's what kind of turned me off from that. But it's like you need to start maybe like smaller. A couple of your friends help people out, or just helping out your neighbors, like you said, just doing that.
Yeah.
Hey, great talking.
Yeah, it was great. Great talking to you, Jay.
Cool. Have a good day.